Have you ever wondered how the QR code was invented? You know, those square-shaped barcodes that you scan with your smartphone camera to get a website link or some other data. They're everywhere these days, aren't they? You see them at shops, restaurants, and museums. And if it's a QR code for a shop or a restaurant, then we usually use it instead of typing the URL into our browser because it's much faster. And in fact, you can put any kind of information in a QR code. For example, in Japan, there are QR codes posted all over train stations that show you how many people are waiting in line for a particular train. In some countries, like Sweden, they even put QR codes on graves in cemeteries, so that people who visit the graves can get more information about the person buried there. Anyway, since we use QR codes so often now, I thought it would be a good idea to look into how this technology actually came to be, who invented it, and why. Well, let's find out in today's episode. As always, I read quite a lot of books for this channel, and one of the things I enjoy the most is reading fictional books, especially fantasy books. However, I don't really have time to read long books during the week because my evenings are mostly taken up by work. So I usually only have time to read in the morning before work, and I like to keep my evenings free so I can relax and do something fun. Therefore, I'm always looking for a good short book to read in the morning, and that's where short form comes in. Short form is a great tool that gives you short summaries of non-fiction books and articles. The reason I like short form so much is that I get so many ideas from their summaries that I want to research further. This means that my short list of books to buy just keeps getting longer and longer. And now, back to the video. So the first thing I found out when researching the history of the QR code was that nobody knows exactly who invented it. There are lots of people and companies claiming to have been the inventors, but as it turns out, none of them were. Let me explain. You see, there's a Japanese company called Denso Wave Incorporated that claims to have invented the QR code in 1996, and Denso Wave is a subsidiary of Toyota. But the truth is that the people at Denso Wave didn't invent the QR code either. What happened was that they had a meeting where they brainstormed ways to improve efficiency in factories. And one of the ideas that came out of that meeting was to create a way to quickly identify parts as they moved along the production line. And so two engineers named Masumi Harada and Koichi Togasaki started playing around with the idea. They wanted to come up with a two-dimensional barcode that could be read quickly and easily. After 2 months of work, they succeeded. Their invention was named QR code after quick response code, and when it turned out that the new barcode was also readable by humans, Denso Wave decided to start selling the technology to other companies. Now there are 3 problems with this story. First, there's no proof that the actual invention happened at that brainstorming session. It very well could have happened before or after the meeting. The second problem is that there were several other companies working on similar technologies at the same time. So it's not clear that this particular QR code was the first of its kind. And the third problem is that while it's true that QR codes were first used in the automotive industry, they weren't used for tracking parts. Instead, they were used for tracking vehicles. You see, when cars go through the assembly line, workers sometimes have to move them around manually. And the workers needed a way to quickly find out which car should be assembled next. So that's what the QR codes were used for. So who invented the QR code? Well, according to this article from BBC, there are 3 possible inventors. The first is a British engineer named Bill Jackus, who worked at a company called Scion. Scion made handheld computers that were used by delivery drivers. And Jacques wanted to make it easier for his customers to enter data into their handheld computers. His solution was to put a barcode on each form that the driver filled out. And when the driver finished filling out the form, he could scan the barcode with his computer, and the data would be transferred directly into the handheld computer. Bill Jakes submitted a patent for this invention in 1985. The second inventor is an American man named Robert J. Adler, who worked for a company called International Business Machines. Adler wanted to create a way to display large amounts of data in a small space. His idea was to use a laser to project an image onto a sheet of paper. The image would contain all the data he wanted to present, and it could be scanned using a special camera. IBM filed a patent for this invention in 1988, and the third inventor is a German man named Karl Decker. Decker was an engineer who worked at a company called Mannesmann. Mannesmann made mobile phones, and Decker wanted to make it easier for his customers to enter phone numbers. He invented a system where customers could scan a barcode with their phone, and the phone number would automatically be entered into the phone. Decker filed a patent for this invention in 1993. All three patents are quite similar, and all three inventions seem to have been inspired by the work of a British engineer named Roger C. Palmer. In 1982, Palmer invented a way to encode data in a two-dimensional barcode. This invention was later patented and sold to a company called Telecom. Telecom used the technology to create a system for storing customer information. The system worked by projecting a barcode onto a customer's phone and then scanning it with a special camera. All of the customer's information was stored in the barcode, and it could be accessed simply by scanning it. So basically, Palmer's invention was a precursor to the QR code, and it was used by IBM, Psion, and Mannesmann to create their own systems. However, this still doesn't answer the question of who actually invented the QR code. Well, the truth is that it doesn't really matter. The fact is that all three of these companies created very similar inventions around the same time. And this is not surprising, because they were all working on the same problem. They just had different solutions. So who deserves the credit for inventing the QR code? Well, I think all of them do. Bill Jacobs, Robert Adler, Karl Decker, and Roger Palmer. All of them made significant contributions to the development of this technology. So what did DensoWave do when they realized that they weren't the first to invent the QR code? Did they admit it? No, of course not. They just decided to ignore the other inventors and claim that they were the ones who had invented the QR code. And it seems to have worked. Most people, including the media, refer to DensoWave as the inventor of the QR code, and even the patents held by IBM, Psion, and Mannesmann have been allowed to lapse. But there's another problem with this story. Do you remember how I told you that QR codes were first used to track vehicles on the production line? Well, that's not actually true either. The first use of the QR code was to track parts. The QR codes were attached to parts as they came off the assembly line, and then they were scanned with a special camera. The camera would then identify the part and send information about it to a computer. The computer would then use this information to update the status of the part in the system. So the QR codes were used to keep track of where the parts were in the process and to make sure that they were being assembled in the right order. What I've learnt from this is that it's almost impossible to find out who truly invented something. There are so many people and companies involved in the development of most products that it's difficult to give credit to just one person or company. In the case of the QR code, I think all the people and companies involved deserve credit for their contributions to this technology. It's amazing what can be accomplished when people from different cultures and backgrounds come together to solve a problem. And I'd like to thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more videos about the history of technology. And if you want to watch another episode, then I recommend that you watch the one linked here.